Welcome back. Now, there's China, Russia, and Iran beginning joint naval exercises in the South African waters over the weekend as part of the BRICS partnership to, quote, ensure the safety of shipping and maritime economic activities. President Trump is accusing the group of countries of anti-American policies. I spoke with exiled Iranian Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi yesterday on what he is going to do about Beijing involved in Iran's port business. Watch this. The Chinese finalized a deal back in 2021 to acquire ports in Iran. Are there plans to try to separate from the Chinese Communist Party? How do you see that playing out?
Look, Maria, this regime, out of weakness, have offered far too many concessions, whether to Russia or to China. We don't believe that the future of Iran has to be antagonistic to Russian or Chinese interests. We just don't want to have unfair, imposed, imbalanced arrangements. Most of these arrangements have been unfair and balanced, and it's basically devoiding our country in our national interests. So long as we can defend our national interests, we are prepared to deal with any bloc, so long as it's based on fair trade.
Joining me now is the Gatestone Institute Senior Fellow, Gordon Chang. Gordon, it's great to have you this morning, as usual. You know, this is a deal that I was referring to that Iran did with China, a $400 billion Iran deal where China is trying to deepen its influence in the Middle East by acquiring these ports in Iran. Now, Reza Pahlavi wants to come in as the transitional leader should the Khomeini regime fall. But my question was, what are you going to do about the Communist Party of China's influence on Iran? Your reaction?
China's influence on Iran is deep. It goes back to that $400 billion strategic partnership deal in 2021 that you mentioned. The issue here is going to be oil sales because China is getting discounted oil from Iran. It takes more than 90% of Iran's exports of crude. And so this is going to be reassessed. If there's a new government in Iran, as now appears, I think you're going to see a reassessment. And there's going to be a rebalancing of relationships because people there understand that China's taking advantage of Iran across the board.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out and whether or not Reza Pahlavi gets the opportunity to go back as a transitional leader. But sticking with China, Gordon, Goldman Sachs is predicting a pretty good economy there. China's GDP is expected to grow by 4.8%, according to the economist at Goldman. The report states that this prediction is slightly above economists' expectations. They've got China growing 4.5%. I don't know if you believe any of these numbers. Gordon, what's your reaction, and how do you see the Chinese economy growing?
Well, Goldman Sachs is just putting out a forecast that will please the Chinese regime. When we look at the economy last year, China said that it will say that it's grown about 5%, meeting its GDP target. The Rhodium Group put out an assessment a couple of weeks ago saying it was 2.5% to 3%. And you can make a case for zero and contraction, especially when you look at underlying indicators such as tax receipts, housing starts, foreign investment, corporate profits. It just shows that the Chinese economy is declining. It's in a deflationary spiral. That's because of creation of too much investment. The economy is unbalanced. And the thing, Maria, is that China's basically now starting its 2008. In 2008, it didn't want a downturn, so it went on a massive debt spree, and now it's got to resolve this. It's having problems doing so. So whatever the number is, even if it's that 4.8% that Goldman Sachs talked about, it's not going to be enough to actually retire China's debt.
Yeah, Liz Peek, how do you see this? It's hard to know what to believe from these government numbers coming out of the Chinese Communist Party government.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? We just really don't believe the data. Gordon, I think part of the reason Goldman is so positive is because exports supposedly are surging from China. The numbers do confirm that, not to the United States, but to elsewhere. So my question is, are those profitable exports? Because if it was so easy to replace U.S. as their major market, why haven't they done it beforehand?
That's a great question. And the margin on China's exports to the global south are much thinner than their margins to, for instance, the United States. And there has been that diversion of export sales, as you talked about. So, yes, The Goldman estimate is based upon increase in exports. But really, we're starting to see even the global south start to resist China's exports. And I think that really means that although there will be maybe some export growth this year, it's not going to be enough to justify the 4.8% forecast. So really, when you look across the board, it's very gloomy for China. A friend of mine who just came back from a trip to Hong Kong and Beijing was saying that there's something like 20% unemployment in China right now.
Wow.
And that's a real indication that the economy really doesn't have that potential to meet the Goldman forecast.
And Kenny Polcari, jump in here, because I feel like investing in these Chinese companies that are traded on our exchanges has really been fading in terms of the enthusiasm around there.
Yeah, well, listen, I was one who never invested in the first place just because I didn't trust the accounting. I didn't trust the dynamics of it. So that's not where I went. And so I would suggest that it's going to continue to get even harder for that if this, in fact, comes out. To Gordon's point, if there's 20% unemployment in China, how could Goldman even come up with an estimate like that? You can't tell me Goldman's not aware that there's 20% unemployment in China when people on the street are telling Gordon, look, yes, it is. Unemployment is huge here. What is Goldman looking at that they see differently?
Kenny, you really got to ask Goldman that because their forecast, I think, is just really politically determined. They are not going to want to say something that will offend the regime because, they want to do business in China.
Exactly.
But, I can't really speak to that. You got to ask them themselves.
Right. That's exactly the point, right? They don't want to offend anybody. So here they come up with this rosy forecast when, meanwhile, the reality tells you something very different.
All right, we will leave it there. Gordon, great to get your take on all of this. Gordon, thank you.